Hello, I'm Caroline Marshall, and welcome to Bump to Business Owner, the podcast speaking to mums in business, you. I'll be in conversation with some of the most inspiring women and mothers in enterprise about their journey, how they created their successful businesses alongside raising their children, and what that looks like in work and family life. Hello and welcome to Bump to Business Owner. I'm your host, Caroline Marshall, and today I'm welcoming Alice Holland-Lu. She is the founder of the Female Archetypes, a fashion brand built to support women's changing bodies through every life phase, from pregnancy to menopause and beyond. After 15 years in the fashion industry, Alice launched her business following 2 difficult pregnancies, a traumatic birth and postnatal depression, which left her feeling a stranger in her own body. Nothing fit, literally or emotionally, and the seed of a business idea was planted. Her garments adapt from size UK 8 to 18 with thoughtful design features supporting both form and function for real life with kids. In this episode, we dive into Alice's transition from fashion professional to founder, how motherhood reshaped her identity, and how she's building a community-led brand that meets women exactly where they are instead of asking them to squeeze back into outdated ideals. Not only an inspirational founder who is truly on a mission to change women's lives, she is also a mum of 2 young children. Wow, what a career. Welcome, Alice. So excited to finally have you because we've been chatting for a long time, haven't we?
Thank you so much, Caroline. I mean, honestly, I feel like you could just speak for me. That was like the most beautiful introduction, like better than I could have said it myself. It's fantastic. Thank you.
If you're ever pitching, just invite me.
Yeah, I will.
We should do that. We should start doing like stand-ins for pitching and like, this is real motherhood. We have to stay behind and then someone will just stand in and pitch for me and give us all the money for how resourceful we are. Something I really wanted to ask you as a starter, because your background's in the fashion industry. Did you feel becoming a mum or anything like that would change your career at all? Because I've heard so many on this podcast say, and who are now fashion founders themselves in different ways, say that, yeah, they went back to work and just the fashion world just doesn't work for motherhood hours and time.
So I thought I would just pop the baby out and then the baby would be cute and just sit in the corner. Like I had literally no.
I know. I love how people think that. I'd go to like lunch and I'd have like a 1-year-old and they'd be like, why didn't you bring him? Because he'd be like running around riot and going into all the sharp things and falling downstairs.
Yeah, just no idea. I had no experience with babies. I found going back to work, I guess I kind of enjoyed it from a perspective. I finally had something that was like mine, if that makes sense. And I felt like my brain at first was a little bit slow, but then actually I had such good perception of like, okay, these are the team, like I was running a big team. These are the problems. Actually, that doesn't matter. That's you just, getting stressed about that thing. That's not important. Oh, and actually 1, 2, 3 is important. And I think it gave me so much more kind of conviction, if that makes sense. So, and also, when you've got to get out the door at 5 o'clock to get back for pickup, then you've got to get out the door. So, I would then actually leave client meetings and say, well, this has been great. My team's super capable. They will take you from here on, but I've got to go and do nursery pickup. So my first time round, I would say it was manageable. My daughter was at an incredible nursery. She was super, super happy there. It was when I had 2 that's when it was, when I was pregnant the second time I was at the same employer. I was a sales director and I was running 85% of the revenue for the business. I was the most senior employee. And it became very clear that it's my second pregnancy was not welcome, and I quote, inconvenient.
Really? But they didn't do that the first time. The second time, no, it was like, enough now.
Yeah, they were kind of irritated, and my boss, the owner of the company, said to one of my most junior employer, who was a 22-year-old woman, it's very inconsiderate that Alice keeps getting pregnant. So it was really...
And we wonder why we're struggling with women having children in this day and age. And he's feeding that idea to a 22-year-old as well.
Yeah. And he had 2 kids.
Yeah.
And it's, they just really couldn't understand why on earth I couldn't fly to New York 7 months pregnant and work 14-hour days in sales campaign. Yeah. And, my husband works in the office every day and he's often traveling. We don't have any kind of family help or support. So I would say that actually life was sort of manageable when there was 1. But then when suddenly there's 2 and, they're at the same nursery, okay, that's just about doable. But my goodness me, the school thing. What is with school? That's been a total adjustment. My daughter started in September, and that is like, oh my goodness, a whole other.
It's next level. It's one of those things, again, you think you're prepped for, and then you're not. It's like so much shorter days. They're so tired because they're learning more, and so much admin.
It's just absolutely wild. And then now, there's 20 drop-offs and pickups a week between the two of them.
Yeah.
It's just, some days I pick up my daughter and we go to the factory. Then she's like, but mummy, I wanted to go and play with so-and-so. And I'm like, oh, mummy, I wanted to go to this picnic. Okay, that was arranged 2 days ago. Sorry, but you got to get in the car, have some snacks, take a nap. That's fine. And off we go.
And write this in your bio when you're older that your mum took you to work and showed.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly strengthened my relationship with the factory that I work with, and it's very sweet. I bring the kids in, and they're all like, and I mean, it's mad. Like when you kind of speak about the balance, I've been taking my son to the factory since he was 3 months old. Like I'd go and do a cost price negotiation while breastfeeding. And literally now he's like, well, he's 2. Like he's walking around everywhere, and he's they've seen it all. So I think I remember. Naomi Davis, NMD Marketing. I remember, she invited me to a breakfast, and she has a son almost exactly the same age as mine. I said, is it all right if I bring my son? Because I only have childcare 2 or 3 days a week or something like that. And she was like, oh, no problem, all good. No. And I arrived, and it was if I had an alien with me. It was if, she was totally fine. She was amazing. Yeah. Totally chill. But I think the rest of the people looked at me like I brought something highly inappropriate with me.
Did they have children at all?
1 or 2 did. But it was just like, oh my goodness, the shock of, and I had to take him everywhere. Isn't that people said to me, oh, you're so brave, bringing. Well, no, it's a necessity. I'm not earning. My business is not at a point where, I'm taking a salary. So I had childcare for, I think it was 2 days a week. But the rest of the time he had to come with me. And so it wasn't me trying to consciously break any barriers. It was, show up for PR. It was just like, well, who else is going to look after him? Got to make some money and try and make a go of this business, So the baby will come with me. And he was a lot, as you spoke about, it was a lot more straightforward when I could just sort of carry him around. Now, it's mad. He just runs everywhere.
Yeah, to your it's really, really hard. So he was was he a baby when you started? What did that journey of like, I'm gonna go for this look like? Did you leave your job? Or did something else happen there?
So I left basically my dad got really sick, and we thought he was really, really ill when I was pregnant, and then he had to have a stem cell transplant, and my husband was traveling, and I had a 2-year-old and a brand new baby, and I was like, how on earth, like even with a supportive employer, like how am I gonna juggle this? And basically I'd had really bad postnatal depression the first time around, and I think there was lots of different factors that kind of impacted it and created it, I guess. But most notably, I'd been in fashion for a long time. I'd had access to sample sales. I'd always been a size 6, and my body changed so much. And I guess I finally sort of made peace with it, and I was pregnant pretty close. I kind of stopped breastfeeding, and 6 months later I was pregnant. And so, my body was sort of, I guess, kind of getting back on track in that kind of intervening period. And so I went and bought a really expensive pair of jeans and thought, look, I'm not going to get any bigger than this pair of jeans now. I feel this is the biggest I'll be. I'll go and start spending money on something that will fit my kind of new shape. And then after I had my son, they didn't fit. They wouldn't do up. So, and then I remember going to and buying I was really obsessed with this like viral pair of jeans, and I sent my mum off to Southampton to go and find them, because they were sold out online and in London and everything. And
good mums. I've definitely done that with my mum as well,
for sure, right? And then I got them and I was so excited. I was like, this is great. Like, I was on mat leave, so I didn't really have like a lot of money, and I'd managed to get this pair of jeans that was gonna solve everything, and then they wouldn't do up. So it kind of dawned on me, like, this is so stupid. Like, these clothes not working for my body just makes me feel really bad about myself. And I guess I kind of had the perspective at that time of being like, okay, my body will probably shift and change again, and I am, still postpartum, but actually I don't know where my final size will end. And actually, to be honest with you, like I put on quite a lot of weight with my son, and then I was breastfeeding, and he was feeding every hour during the night, and it was just madness. And I lost 5 kilos in 10 days or something ridiculous. Like it was just, but then I would put on the weight again. And, so it just was, I was like, this is so stupid. And I guess I had this sort of middle of the night moment where I was like, why don't jeans adjust? Why don't clothes adjust to fit us? Like we are, constantly in flux as women. And even if you take childcare out of the equation, like actually the irony is I made the brand from my own kind of postpartum experience, but the majority of our customers are actually perimenopausal or are going on their own like weight loss journey. So it really does affect us at kind of every stage of life.
Or even just by the month, like, to share, I am PMT stage. And I am honestly, I swear to God, like a size bigger, like at this time of the month, then yeah, as soon as I come on my period, it all goes. It's all water weight, and I just feel heavier and bigger. And I'm far from like not alone in that, I know.
Oh, and I mean, even like, you go for dinner and you have some pasta. Like I was secretly undoing the top button of my jeans,
So, and I really actually want to ask you questions about clothes there, but I'm going to go back to also, so you went on this whole journey, and do you think, because you became a mum during COVID, is that right as well?
Yeah, my daughter's
4. And so she's in reception. So yeah, same year as my youngest, who's a COVID child. And I honestly think, and because you're a very community-led brand, the community was just stripped away from us, like during that time. And do you think that really contributed to your maternal mental health during that time and the struggles?
I think it was really multi-layered. Obviously, like a lot is to do with hormones. I would say, we didn't have my husband's American, his parents are in the States. My parents were shielding for some of the time. We didn't have, the support. A lot of our kind of like NCT antenatal stuff was online. I think that, going from, I guess, quite an intense career to then, motherhood, especially kind of baby. I mean, I'm not super into babies. I think children are great and I can communicate with them, but babies, I just didn't understand. It was like a foreign language. And I had a really hideous birth. My daughter was 9 pounds 11, 48-hour labor, and I think my husband couldn't be in the hospital. When you are, and I had a lot of complications, and it was very, very difficult. At the same time, 65,000 men were allowed to congregate at the football at Wembley during that time, right? Whereas I couldn't have my husband at all, right?
So I know I had a lot of feelings about the time. We were at the Homerton, like the week those parties happened at number 11. I was like separated from my child, and I was just like, this is like asshole. I really do think it showed the discrimination that comes out every day during that time that is just not aware of.
The hospitals were so understaffed, and the midwives were trying their best, but like it, there wasn't enough staffing. And I gave birth at the Royal Free in Hampstead because we're in Hampstead, and it's actually subsequently been closed. The maternity unit. So
it has, hasn't it? I forgot about that.
Yeah. So there was a lot, and then my husband was back to work, and he works in the city, and he's in the office all the time. So it was really tough, and it was kind of, I would say, like I suddenly was alone with this screaming thing that I didn't know what to do with, and you can't hold a board meeting with a baby. And my daughter also had allergies, so I didn't know that babies aren't supposed to scream for 6 hours a day.
No.
So she had allergies. Turns out she was highly allergic to dairy, and I was obviously consuming dairy and then breastfeeding. So once we kind of got past the point where she was sort of, we had interventions, etc., then I sort of found my stride. But I think the fact that I genuinely thought that I would push the baby out and then I would get my like flat stomach back and be back to a size was just I stood in Uniqlo because I thought I'll just go and buy some cheap stuff while I'm this size, and I just sobbed because I was like, I don't even know what size to pick up in the shop to take to the changing room. And that moment where because it is, you know, how clothes fit us and how we perceive ourselves and self-image, and you know, you have an idea in the morning of, okay, I've got this important, you know, thing today, I'm going to wear XYZ, and then it doesn't do up and it's like, oh my gosh, this is like, already we're just not starting the day in the right way. And you know, no one is designing with like, this all this talk about real bodies, but like no one, you know, you might feature people in campaigns that are real women, but no one designs for real bodies. We, you know, we leak, we need you know, breathable clothes, we need clothes that don't strangle us under the arms, we need clothes that adapt when, you know, our breast size changes during the month. In perimenopause we can lose dexterity and strength in our hands, and you know, there's all manner of like health complications, and I can't fix everything, but if you feel comfortable, then you actually can, you know, you can go about your day and you're not restricted. And we, you know, we have so many challenges and complications as women. You know, if you feel comfortable and actually smart, then you can, you know, you can go about what you're supposed to be doing, and it you know, empowers you from the get-go.
And how did you go about actually, like, did you have a light bulb moment, or did you just start like looking for manufacturers? How, you know, as a service-based business owner, I'm fascinated by products, like how you actually go into it, because I just go out and sold me, but like you need to start somewhere. So like, how did you think this is, well, you obviously can tell from your time in Uniqlo and your experiences, but when you're like, I need to do this and this market isn't there?
So I think, I mean, I would say I was really naive. Like I'd been in commercial, you know, in sort of premium luxury brands for a long time, and sort of on the sales side, and I was, you know, extremely confident in that part, and you could, you know, chuck me in front of Selfridges or Harrods and I'd, you know, do all the schmoozing and then close the deal and negotiate the contracts and all that stuff and problem solve with the clients, and you know, all that kind of thing. I had a lot of experience in growing brands from very small size to, you know, I helped like Beyonce launch Ivy Park and all that kind of thing. But I had absolutely no perception of what it took to bring a product to market. And I remember, you know, the head designer at the luxury brand that I was at before, and I always used to be like, why are these samples not on time? And we've got this important meeting with this luxury retailer. And why is this not here? And I just said to him, and luckily I'm friends with him, I said to him, you know, during this production process, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, this is so hard. And he was like, yeah, I've been saying that for the last 5 years working with you. So
it's like apologizing to past mothers when you didn't realize it over the career version of that.
You just have like no idea, right? So I mean, I kind of started by just asking like my network and asking people that I knew and I'd worked with, and I was like, I've got this idea. And then I had a friend that we'd both done fashion at uni. She was really good at the sort of like precise pattern cutting stuff. I was sort of like, I'll just chop a bit off, it'll be fine. I was a bit more of the
visionary, let's say.
It's like the sort of personality and, you know, branding and stuff. And she was very much, you know, into the kind of detail and the precision. I just said to her, look, you know, I've got this idea, like, is this even possible? I sent her lots of my clothes, which she cut up, you know.
It literally was your clothes cut up.
Yeah, literally. And then I sent her some fabric, and then I was obsessed with magnets. Yeah, it turns out people don't use magnets for a reason because they stick to everything. And then there's such a bother, and then it's just a total nightmare. So, but I was like, oh, I'm going to order 20,000 magnets from China, and this is the future. I think I was probably still a bit hormonal at that point. So she was like,
I think that's a thing though, by the way, like having all these visions, and you need to really kind of calm them down a little bit, like go with them. But also I think there's a lot of like, oh, I've got all these ideas in that early years, which are great, but they do need to calm down.
For sure. And I'm the one that, you know, I've known her since we were 16, and she's actually in some of she was then pregnant when I did the first shoot of the first products. And so I was like, you will need to come here and you need to put clothes on and you need to be in the campaign. She was like, okay. And she's quite used to my sort of crazy ideas. So she was like, how about you just order a few magnets? And I think there is actually still quite a lot of magnets at her house. Just order a few and let's test it. And then she sent me all these pictures and videos of all these twisted seams, and it just didn't work. But, you know, and then basically I ordered some denim and sent some denim and you can't really sew denim on home machines. But anyway, we sort of made it work. And so then she was working in Soho. And so I once a week would take the baby and go and meet her, and there's a picture of me in Soho Square trying on the jeans. And then I'd try on the jeans and I'd be like, oh no, the crotch needs to be lower, and oh no, this needs to be like this. And, you know, trying to work out like functionality when something has never been done before is just because that is not how fashion works. You take a sample of something you like and you go and copy it, basically, and you make some changes. So doing something from complete scratch is not only extremely expensive, but also just no one does it, right? So I've worked with a pattern cutter, like subsequently, obviously then my friend was working and then she had another baby. And, you know, we were sort of doing all these things a bit haphazard. But then I started working with a pattern cutter, like a, you know, professional later on. And she was like, even recently, she just said, Alice, this is why sizes exist. When I'm like, a really nice brand, just make nice things. I'm like, no, everything has to be adjustable. She's like, why are you so obsessed with this adjustability? So even when someone that's been on the journey with you, and you know, my manufacturer are like, what are you doing? Yeah, a lot of it was, you know, I was having conversations with people to sort of produce overseas and all sorts of things. But you know, when you are innovating something that hasn't been done before, I mean, everyone thinks you're insane, which I'm kind of fine with now, but it's you have to be there in person. You really do. So yeah, I think I would, as you well know, through our own you know, kind of meeting through Mums Building Companies, it's, you know, just having those kind of introductions, because a lot of places, a lot of suppliers, especially in the UK, like you need an introduction to get through the door. And it very much was kind of going out and like working out, okay, I need some kind of patterns and I need to sort of work out if this concept like can actually work. And then, you know, then I found a manufacturer and I've worked really closely with them and I still work with them, and their quality is phenomenal. They work with, you know, Amelia Wickstead, Victoria Becker, Modi Goddard. Like, you know, I'm there and I'm like, can I just take that sample?
What made you think it would actually work? What happened that you were like, okay, I'm on something here. I'm not just...
I mean, if any investors are listening, of course I think it's amazing and it definitely is going to work. But in real life, God knows. I mean, will it work? I don't know, right? Like I wake up in the morning and I look at the bank account and I'm like, I don't think it's working.
It's working.
And then, you know, then I get some, you know, then we get some press or you know, I'm working with Yelena through Cult PR, who I met, you know, through Mums Building Companies, where again, she'll be in touch and she'll say, you know, so-and-so wants to, you know, interview you or, you know, get an order. I mean, that's still the, Simone from NIFT the other day asked me, you know, what is it like for independent brands? Like what makes them happy? And then I'm just like, we've all seen those pictures or those videos where, you know, people leave the shop and then the people, you know, they cut the people behind the counter are like, yes! Like it really is like, and you know, I'm in touch with all of our customers. You know, I had an hour video call with a customer the other week, and you know, she's on her third purchase with us, and our products are not cheap, so that definitely makes it worthwhile. And I think just giving people, especially women, giving women something that doesn't exist. And actually, I always say it's so much about, you know, saying to the customer, we accept you as you are. And if you want to change in the future, that's cool. But you don't need to change to fit into our products. And, you know, for me, that's so important.
It's very like anti-fast fashion. Because like you said before, hit a note, I almost had Ali from Zig and Star on here before, who worked in fashion before. And it was like she saw the change in the fashion industry where it was like it was creative. They wanted to do stuff new. And then it became about just copying everything else and getting it out there, basically. Did you see that change at all with fashion while you were there? Or did it always feel a bit, the creativity side was lacking a little bit?
So, I mean, I was most lastly like a luxury brand. So I think when you're kind of dealing with that sort of price point, it is about, obviously, you know, margins are really important, but it's more, I guess, about brand building, if that makes sense. So you're buying into either the aspiration of, oh, I could be that person, or, you know, the sort of the lifestyle, or then you're also buying into the fact that you're getting a very unique design, something very beautiful and interesting. So I think I've never worked for anyone that is like truly fast fashion. So I think I've never really been, but I mean, obviously I've heard lots of stories, you know, Primark not actually having fit models, just this, like the team just fitting it on themselves and bizarre things like that.
Oh, really?
But I think for me, like I've always liked nice things, right? And
Yeah.
I sold my designer handbags to fund my brand. And that for me, you know, had been something I'd really collected over the years. I think the power of brand is so important. And, you know, having gone through like my own journey with my, you know, with my body and my mental health around that, and, you know, the size we are, how we look has such a huge impact on how we feel. And, you know, I think that with the female archetypes, it's not just about, hey, these clothes fit great. It's very much about, you know, we pay people fairly, like as a minimum we pay London living wage, you know.
Yeah.
And lots of, you know, people are much more, you know, are much above that for the most part. But, you know, you literally can see in the videos, like you can see me at the factory, you can see people working in the factory, you can, you know,
And they're London based.
yeah, it's, you know, it's in northeast London, and, you know, you can see through all the videos that we put out there, and I'm actually in conversation with a really lovely like ethical retailer, and they're like, but we just really need all these certifications. And I'm like, come with me to the factory, like come with me to the factory. I don't have paperwork saying the people are well treated, because I literally see them on a weekly basis. You know, they have breaks, it's clean, they're well paid, they're nourished, they're supporting their families. And
that's such an interesting point. That's where like a B Corp, because it costs money to do all of that stuff, that comes a blocker when you're trying to do stuff the right way from the beginning.
Well, it's just also a little bit silly, right? Like, you know, this kind of scale, it's like, well, I physically can see, and, you know, people are like, well, what's the provenance of your fabric? I'm like, I get it from the place over the road. Like, and, you know, there's videos of me carrying the rolls of fabric, right? I'm like, what kind of carbon footprint? You know, like it.
How are your delivery people treated? And like, ask me.
Yeah, my perks are not great. I want a pay rise. Yeah, so, you know, it's so important to me to, you know, as mothers, how can we justify such exploitative labor in Bangladesh, and, you know, people working in conditions that they die, like Rana Plaza, 1,200 women died because they were trying to support their families. Like, how can you go, like, we all love an impulse purchase, right? We all love Black Friday. We all love the dopamine hit. Like, totally get it. Totally been there, 2:00 in the morning breastfeeding, you know. But I think what I've started to understand, and this is where I really want to take on marketing, is what goes into making a product. And AI has not managed to find a way, machines have not managed to find a way to sew our garments. So, you know, they pass through so many hands before they get to us. And I don't think anyone is really explaining how many different elements there are and how many different stages there are to bring that product to market. And a £10 dress, only 4% of the cost of that goes to the person sewing it.
Wow.
That's not good. Like that's not good in any country, in any cost of living. So, you know, the prices, and people always push back on our prices, and I say, well, actually we want to treat people fairly and we want to pay them, and, you know, we try and you know, strip out anything that's not necessary. But ultimately a huge part of the cost of our garments is labor.
Yeah,
it's the people that are making it.
I so relate to this, having a rant with my friends the other day about the budget, because I was like, you know, people who say we're expensive, you can see I can be transparent. Like, we pay 100% more than male-owned virtual assistant agencies, and they're all UK based or UK trained. And it's like, well, you know, we're out there trying to make such a difference, and it's still so hard for us as small businesses who get treated like the big guys when we're actually like really suffering with our overheads to make a difference and to make that change happen to the people who are delivering, kind of thing. And it is, I just so relate to that one. And there was something I was dying to ask you as well, because I think it was a couple of years ago, I saw something like all the creative directors of these major fashion houses were men. And it was like, so it was men making the decisions for women about their bodies. And I was like, if in a world where the fashion industry wasn't always run by men and still run by men, even if they say, oh, 50% of our work source are women, it's like, well, who's like heading the creative and designing the garments, or the money, in charge of the money as well? Do you think there would have been, you know, a world where the clothes would have been more adaptive or something like that? You know, it's so speculative, but I was just really interested in your thoughts on that.
For sure. And this is something that I kind of bang on about all the time. And when people say like, oh, this is the designer. Like when they're talking about me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I literally cannot draw to save my life. But I go with my product developer to my pattern cutter and I say, this is a problem. I've been talking to this kind of customer and she said, this is a problem. So we need to fix that. And so I just fix problems based on what women are telling me, like having.
And being one yourself as well.
Exactly. And, having breathable areas on garments when you're having a hot flush or you're stuck on the tube or, no one is designing with functionality in mind, but making things beautiful. So you either have the, sort of sexualized version of, the female body, what that, men are designing for, or things that are extremely like conceptual, which are not practical. Or you have the, the sort of outerwear, outdoors wear type thing. Anyone that knows me knows that, I love a walk in nature for half an hour and then where's the nearest pub? Like, so yeah. It's things like hiking gear, having, eyelets under the arms for breathability. Why do you not have that in a blazer when you're in a meeting and you're sweating? Like, why does everything...
I'm nervous or,
You buy a really expensive jacket and then it has a polyester lining. Like it just, no one is like thinking from a practical perspective. So for example, our blazer, you can put it in the washing machine. You'll need to, iron it or steam it afterwards, right? It'll probably get a little bit crumpled, but it has a 100% cotton outer and 100% cotton inner. So, it's like, who is taking the dry cleaning to the dry cleaners? Women. So, it's just thinking about the whole kind of process. And I think if you haven't been in a body that's shifted and changed and is quite unpredictable, let's face it, I think it's impossible to design with a woman first.
That's so great. Like when you're also talking about it, I know medical perspective, we know that we haven't been tested on for years or trial drugs with because we're so unpredictable. And I think you've summed it up there with our bodies as well. It's like they just want that predictability in it, and we're not that. And it's just fascinating to chat about that. And so you've spoken about the female archetypes to become more than just a clothing brand. Tell us about your bigger vision for it.
That's a really good question. So I think that in this day and age, obviously, digital is great. Like, we're able to have conversations like this digitally. And I think that, having social media can be fantastic. I think we're really, well, I can speak for myself, I'm really missing the sort of like in-person kind of connection. And I think that, I'm really obsessed with speaking about these kind of themes openly. Like our bodies are changing and, some women will have children, some women won't. And, for example, I read the other day that 45% of women in the UK by 2030 will have chosen not to have children. So I didn't want the brand to be just like very like mummy kind of thing. It really is like for all.
And it's such a season, those early years of recovering from that until you move on to the next one. And I do think that it's all consuming when you're in it. And then when you start, even I'm feeling more out of it in the age bracket of 7 to 5, it's less about my recovery from birth and all of that area of it. So I think that's such a good point.
And I think that, so we've obviously gone through these extremely intense periods, having being pregnant, childbirth, postpartum, etc. But we arguably have the biggest, challenge of our lives coming up with up to 10 years of perimenopause. So, and that's even not that pregnancy and postpartum is fun and predictable, but that's even more unpredictable because it's not a straight line. And so, and it can start at any age. I'm 36, I'm having hot flushes. My mum was done with menopause by 40. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it's, whenever I say I'm actually designing, firsthand experience on that, people are like, what? So, we should never speculate, so we're all, it's universal. We're all going to go through menopause. So I think for me, I'm just really interested in like how, obviously I've been on my own kind of like in quotes wellness journey, and worked out the things that work for me. But I think, and often it's not necessarily the most sort of like traditional medical approaches. How do we look after ourselves and each other to, really best support us through all of these changes and challenges in life? So I think I'm really obsessed with kind of bringing together, different experts and just like having these conversations and like very much in person. So we do a panel series and it's just really nice to bring women together, not with any other, agenda, because I think often you go to events and people are just trying to sell you stuff. And it's just really nice to be able to kind of come together and, everyone has sort of busy schedules, and it's really lovely now. People get in touch with me and they say, like, when's the next event? Like, I couldn't make the last one, but when's the next event? You know, and if we haven't got one in the calendar, I'm like, oh, okay, we need to get one in. And you know, it's just a really, really lovely thing to sort of bring people together. And then it's really nice as well, because if people can't join, then they always ask, are you streaming it? Like, is there a link? And I've met people that really follow and engage with the brand and love it, you know, that I don't know. And obviously that's, you know, at the beginning when you first start selling products, you're just badgering everyone you know to buy something. And then you get
and you're like, people are following me and they don't know me.
What's really weird is some people are like lurkers, like they don't actually interact, and then they're like, I saw your video and so, and I'm like, okay.
And then they buy something as well, and you're like, oh, it's a legit person, especially because most people, I think, when it's personal, they're private, aren't they? So you're like, oh, okay, I had no idea.
And they're like, you know, I met someone the other day, she said, oh, you're that clothes girl. And I was like, like, so it's really funny. Yeah. It's just lovely. Like the events that, you know, I'm a very social person, and I, you know, I've brought together lots of different kind of experts from different sort of areas, and I just think that, you know, if one person can take away, firstly, that, you know, we're not on this journey alone, and secondly, like, oh, actually maybe I can, you know, do this sort of small action, or there is that kind of support out there that's available. And so the series is called In This Body for Life, and the idea is that, you know, it's kind of to support ourselves through all stages of life and all changes that we'll encounter. And it's just a really lovely way to, you know, bring people together. So far we've done them for free, and, you know, to kind of have that kind of, I guess, community. I haven't really set out to do that, but it's sort of kind of happened. But again, you know, talking about it from a small business perspective, it's really hard, and London is so expensive to host, you know, in terms of venues. But yeah, it's something that I feel I love events. I love, you know, setting aside time to go and do something. And I think we may potentially look at doing some during the day, because obviously it's quite tricky in the evening with childcare and things like that. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely something that I feel really passionately about and want to continue going forward.
And I definitely need to make one as well, by the way, Alice, which I will. I think it's so hard in London as well, but let's get you a venue from this podcast, see if anyone's listening.
Anyway, just a few hours, lots of nice ladies.
Lots of nice, but all very low-key and lovely. Right, and I love to talk about financing, money on this. You've won some grants, haven't you? Some investment. So, like, what financing have you needed for this, and what kind of journey are you going on with that?
Oh, gosh. So I won the Muddy Stilettos and Crowdfunder competition, which was £5,000 in cash, £1,000 of like exposure on Muddy Stilettos. So that will be going live in January. So that was amazing, and we kind of had to run our own crowdfund campaign, and yeah, that was just like incredible. That's the only one I've won. I exploring fundraising for external investment at the moment. For me though, really has to be, the alignment has to be right. And I think, you know, for something that is such a kind of, I guess, emotional focus, it really has to be people that want to be, you know, on the journey. We're getting to the point where we are selling out of our jeans. I had to...
That's amazing.
Yeah, I've had to go to Battersea to Lone Design Club and actually pull some stock out of there because I can't fulfill orders. So that's really good, but then it gives us the problem of I can't sell air. So we need to, you know, kind of do another production there. I've taken out debt in all forms, which does surely keep me awake at night. And I think, I guess the kind of mechanics of producing in the UK and, you know, I guess quite frankly, keeping the industry alive. Like if the government would like to help, that'd be great. You know, it's super expensive and it is really challenging, and there's a reason people don't do it. So it's trying to work out, you know, if it is possible going forward. But, you know, we're really scrappy with how we do things. And, you know, everything is done basically within a few miles radius in East London. Yeah. So we're not shipping things all over the world. We're not encountering tariffs, duties, delays, etc. I can bring a product to market very quickly, but quite frankly, you still need money. So yeah, at the moment it's you know, it's bootstrapping, and my God, the stress. So yeah, I think it's a case of, you know, we speak, you know, we all quote the statistics of funding for women and how, you know, it's not good enough, etc., etc. But I don't necessarily see it changing right now, to be honest with you. And there seems to be quite a lot of kind of noise around female founders and funding female founders. but I haven't found it to really ring true. So I think for me, it's very much around values. And, if I was to take on any outside investment, it would very much be people that do align. I am in talks with one personality, let's say, who has quite a large platform, and she's very interested in coming on board. There are kind of conversations in the works, but for me, it has to be a shared mission. But yeah, I think the whole sort of fundraising piece is so stacked against women and mothers, and it's highly challenging. And I think just from a confidence perspective, as women, we're not taught that we can go out and do that, and it feels so, is it being English or is it being a woman or is it both, that it feels so strange to say like, hi, can I have some money?
Yeah, fund me for the next 3 years. It's like, I wonder if there's so much ickiness around that, like being any relation, this is going to sound crazy, like a kept woman, like the icky, like give me money kind of thing, when it, like men never have that connotations with that side of things.
And also they raise from like an idea that's not that great.
Yeah. And like we've said off the call about, everyone's just obsessed with a certain industry right now and investing in, and how many of them are being run by women is the question. So then it's kind of, the odds are against us as well with what industries are cool right now, or what they want to invest in. But I did love what you said there though about how easy you can bring something to market, because we can know that the cost will be really high with everything you're doing, but the perks, like not getting tariffs interrupting your work and all of that's such good perks. So if we're going to go down that route as well,
it's a truly kind of, everyone sort of throws around circular and things like that, like it's a truly like hyper local business model, and everything is done. I can have an idea tomorrow, I can meet with the pattern cutter and product developer, I can then source some fabric from within East London. I can then go to the manufacturer, the factory, they can sew it, and then I can take it to the photo studio in Homerton, and then I can put it on my site. I can literally do that within a week. And so,
I feel like you should be talking to the London Mayor about this.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of shouting into the void.
Yeah.
And then, you could do a case study on sort of like, what are the knock-on effects of actually, the training that it provides, like the uplift to the economy. Like people always say, fashion's so cute. Yeah, it's a 21 billion pound industry that supports the British economy, but it is, the skills are disappearing. People are not being trained to continue on. So then we are at the mercy of other countries. And the UK is the third largest consumer of fashion, which is wild, given we're a tiny island.
That's not good necessarily in some ways.
And if you look at how much of that is fast fashion.
Yeah, exactly that. And I have to say, I just had a flashback. Whitney at Flower Box, do you know her? She's been on the podcast. She faced similar things. She's raised money, but she faced similar things where they were like, oh, flowers, that's so cute. And she was like, this is $1 billion, like, I don't know the stats of the flower industry, but she was like, this isn't cute. This is an industry where I've found a solution for. So I love that. So you guys are super aligned on that. Circling back, so we are going to have to come to an end soon. I'd love, how are you doing now post the baby years? And have you got any advice for mothers who are in the thick of it, who might be listening now with their mental health post baby and having a tough time?
That's such a good question. I think I felt so much better when I sort of just embraced the chaos. And I think my husband, he said the other day, when it was just a total chaos in the kitchen, and he said, do you remember when you used to berate me if I didn't clean the entire high chair after, each meal of our daughter? And now, if my son's hungry, I'm like, nah, there's some banana on the floor from yesterday.
They all end up eating chips on the floor of a car at some point.
Like it just is kind of like, you just let the, after the first, you can sort of try and keep things a bit tidy, but after the second, you're like, but what is the
second?
What is the point of like clearing up the toys? You're just going to tip them out again later. And so I think, it's become this kind of joke where people come over and they say like, oh, well, thanks for clearing up. And I'm just like, well, yeah, I actually have cleared up. Like, and
do you want to clear up?
So I think it's like, take the pressure off. Don't try and be perfect. Obviously, we all try and kind of get back to our lives type thing. I think once I sort of went, you know what? I think this is for a short period of time, actually. And I'm just gonna, not everything. So I read somewhere someone said, the children, myself, or the house, only one can be clean at a time, or something like that. And my hair,
it normally ends up being the children, doesn't it?
You know what I mean? So I'm like, as long as the children are well fed and fairly clean, I think we're winning. And I think it's just, my WhatsApp reply time is 7 to 10 working days. Don't try and expect a response from me.
I know. It's mine's got particularly bad right now, so I feel you. We managed to respond to each other today, though, Alice. So we know how to prioritize.
Do you know what I mean? Emails, good luck.
Okay.
But I think it's some balls will drop, and I think as you well know, you become laser focused on what is really important, and other things. I can't go for coffee with everyone. It just...
I'm having real issues with that right now, Alice, so we need to come up with a nice response together on how I deal with this.
We need to clone
to go for coffees. That an AI for coffee. There we go, new business idea for us.
Done.
That's an AI business.
We just need an AI chatbot to be like, this is what I would say if we were...
only.
Anyway, school run.
Exactly. We've got to go on the school run, which is why I'm rushing through it. It's both of us that are in this right now. 3 lessons from launching. I'm going to quick fire around you. 3 lessons from launching the Female Archetypes that, while raising your kids, what would they be?
Done is better than perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
Just do one tiny thing. Do one tiny thing, and it adds up into something much bigger in the long run. Thing.
It means you're moving forward, doesn't it?
I look at the whole thing and I'm like, how can I possibly do one tiny thing? And just actually have a rest sometimes, Alice. Just rest. Just occasionally rest. Allow yourself to.
I like that. The rest. Even if it's 10 minutes, rest. And what is your joy? What has brought you joy just for Alice outside of motherhood?
I would say, I love to work. I love to work. When the muddy stilettos, I was looking on Instagram. I was with my daughter on a journey. I was looking on it. I just opened Instagram briefly and I was like, oh, that's weird. Our pictures, one of my shoot pictures is there. And then I was like, someone else is using our photography. And then I was like, oh my God, why is Muddy Stilettos posting about us? And then I was like, this competition. And I completely missed the email. And then my daughter shouted on the train, she had no idea what it was about, right?
It could have been anything, but mummy won. That's what matters.
Literally. And I think that, okay, you said not related to motherhood, but I think it's that, in that I've pursued something that I feel really passionately about. And actually you can take your kids on the journey, and parenting won't be perfect and the business won't be perfect, but that pride and that joy, coming from my daughter announcing to the whole train, Mommy won the competition. It was just magical and, more fulfilling than actually winning itself and the kids coming along on the journey. And I think, and also joy from occasionally taking a break, occasionally doing something for myself, going to acupuncture or a yoga class, or I go to sound bath every week, forcing ourselves to prioritize a little bit of things.
Alice, you've been an absolute delight. We both have to rush from the school run, which is the state of women recording a podcast, but we got there. So thank you so much for this. And where can people find you?
Thefemalearchetypes.com. We are The Female Archetypes on Instagram. And if you're interested in my personal ramblings, I am Alice Holland-Lu on Instagram as well. And LinkedIn. We love a bit of LinkedIn, don't we, Caroline?
We love it. We love LinkedIn. Let's go find her on LinkedIn and support the women voices that are being piped down over there.
Oh, for sure. This has been so lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you so much for listening to Bump to Business Owner. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please do rate, review, follow, or subscribe wherever you're listening. It really helps us to connect with more mums and business owners. You can DM me on @BumpToBusinessOwner on Instagram, and I'll be back next week.